They walked right past him every single day. The janitor at the local high school. For 7 years, he mopped the same floors, cleaned the same bathrooms, and emptied the same trash cans. Not once did the teachers invite him to their lunch table. Not once did the principal ask his opinion about the school's problems. Not once did a parent thank him for creating a clean environment for their children to learn. He was invisible. And why? Because in their eyes, he wasn't valuable enough to be noticed. Sure hurts, doesn't it? But here's something that hurts even more. How many of us are just like that janitor right now? Invisible, unnoticed, passed over for opportunities, forgotten when it's time for promotions, ignored when we raise our hands with ideas. The marketplace is brutal that way. It doesn't reward need or longevity or even hard work. It rewards one thing and one thing only: value. That's our topic today, ladies and gentlemen. Becoming so valuable that you simply cannot be ignored. Now, I want you to notice something important. I didn't say appear valuable or convince others you're valuable. No, the key is actually becoming valuable. There's a world difference between the two. One is substance. The other is just show. Let me ask you a question. If your company had to cut 20 of its workforce tomorrow, would your name be safe? Or would you be sweating bullets? Your honest answer reveals everything about your current value. Here's another. If you were to leave your job today, how long would it take them to replace you? A day? A week? Would they even need to replace you at all? Or would your departure create a genuine problem they'd struggle to solve? I'm not asking these questions to make you uncomfortable. Though if you are, that's a signal worth paying attention to. I'm asking because your answers tell you exactly how the world currently measures your value. And if you don't like those answers, well, that's what we're here to change. You see, I've spent decades studying success, not just observing it from afar, but getting close enough to touch it, to smell it, to understand its DNA. And what I've discovered is that success isn't mysterious at all. It follows patterns as predictable as the seasons. And the first pattern is this. Success flows toward value like water flows downhill. It's not just a tendency. It's a law, as certain as gravity. But what exactly is value? That's where most people get confused. They think value is about what they do, their job title, their daily tasks, their to-do list. That's only partially right. Value isn't just what you do. It's what you solve, the problems you eliminate, the headaches you take away, the opportunities you create, the growth you enable. Let me give you an example. Two accountants work at the same firm. Both have the same education. Both work the same hours. Both handle the same number of clients. But one merely processes tax returns, accurately, efficiently, but just processing. The other does the same work, but also identifies tax strategies that save his clients an average of $12,000 each year. Which one do you think commands higher fees? Which one has clients lined up waiting? Which one could leave tomorrow and start their own successful practice? The difference isn't in what they do, but in the value they create. One is replaceable. The other is indispensable. And that brings us to the core principle. To become valuable, you must solve significant problems. The size of your paycheck will always be in direct proportion to the size of the problems you solve. Solve small problems, earn small rewards. Solve big problems, earn big rewards. It really is that simple. But here's the catch. You can only solve problems you're equipped to solve. And that's where personal development comes in. Not as some fluffy, feel-good exercise, but as the most practical investment you'll ever make. Every book you read, every skill you master, every relationship you build, every experience you accumulate, these aren't just activities. They're assets. They're tools that enable you to solve increasingly complex and valuable problems. Think about it. What problems could you solve today that you couldn't solve 5 years ago? If the list is short, you haven't been growing. And if you haven't been growing, you haven't been increasing your value. I know a woman who was working as a basic data entry clerk at a marketing company. She decided to teach herself data analysis in her spare time. Just simple stuff at first. Excel, then some basic SQL, then some visualization tools. Nothing fancy, nothing that required going back to school. Within 18 months, she had transformed her role. Instead of just entering data, she was analyzing it, finding patterns, generating insights. The problems she could solve grew exponentially, and so did her compensation, from $35,000 to $85,000 in under 2 years. Did she work harder? No, she worked smarter. She increased her value. But I need to tell you something that might be uncomfortable to hear. Becoming valuable isn't just about skills and knowledge. It's also about attitude and approach. I've seen brilliant people remain stuck in mediocre positions their entire careers because they brought the wrong attitude to the table. They were talented problem solvers who created new problems with their negativity, their resistance to change, their inability to work with others. Your attitude multiplies or diminishes your value. A positive, solution-oriented mindset might double your value. A negative, problem-focused mindset might cut it in half. The math is that simple. Consider two employees with identical skills. One approaches challenges with enthusiasm, offers solutions instead of complaints, supports team members, embraces change, and consistently goes beyond what's required. The other does the bare minimum, complains about changes, criticizes without offering alternatives, and creates tension on the team. Who's more valuable? Who's more likely to be promoted? Who's more likely to be kept during downsizing? Who's more likely to be recommended for opportunities? The answers are obvious. This isn't about being fake or suppressing legitimate concerns. It's about understanding that how you show up matters just as much as what you know and what you can do. The most valuable people in any organization aren't just competent. They're pleasant to be around. They energize rather than drain. They simplify rather than complicate. They build rather than tear down. So now let's talk about the roadmap to becoming too valuable to ignore. It has 5 components, and I want you to write these down. Master your current job. Second, develop rare and valuable skills. Third, problems nobody's solving. Fourth, build a network of meaningful relationships. Consistently over-deliver on expectations. Let's break these down. Mastering your current job seems obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people are trying to climb to the next rung while standing on a shaky ladder. They're looking for promotions or career changes when they haven't even mastered their current responsibilities. Excellence isn't optional if you want to be valuable. It's the foundation. Whatever you're doing now, whether it's flipping burgers or running a division, do it with excellence. Be so good at your current job that your performance makes a statement about your character. I knew a young man who started as a receptionist at a law firm, answering phones, greeting clients, basic administrative work. Instead of viewing it as just a job, he made it his mission to make the reception area the most efficient, welcoming part of the firm. He learned every client's name and personal details. He reorganized the filing system to save attorneys time. He documented common procedures so that temps could fill in seamlessly when he was sick or on vacation. Within a year, he was promoted to legal assistant, then paralegal, and eventually put through law school by the firm. Why? Because he didn't just do his job. He mastered it. He turned the reception desk into a platform that showcased his potential. The second component is developing rare and valuable skills. The labor market, like any market, follows the laws of supply and demand. Common skills command common compensation. Rare skills command premium compensation. Look around your industry. What skills are in short supply? What capabilities do companies struggle to find? What problems persist because too few people know how to solve them? That's where the value is. And here's a secret. The most valuable skills are often at the intersection of different disciplines. Someone who understands both engineering and customer psychology. Someone who knows both data analysis and compelling storytelling. Someone who combines financial acumen with exceptional people skills. These combination skill sets are rare because most education and career paths encourage specialization. But the most valuable people are often those who build bridges between different worlds. I remember talking to a CEO about his most indispensable employee. I expected him to name a senior executive or technical wizard. Instead, he pointed to a middle manager who had an unusual combination of skills. She understood the company's technology, could translate it into clear language for customers, and had the financial acumen to structure deals that made sense. She wasn't the best programmer, the best salesperson, or the best financial analyst. But her combination of solid skills in all three areas made her irreplaceable. The third component, solving problems, nobody's solving, is where extraordinary value creation happens. In every organization, there are problems hiding in plain sight. Inefficiencies, nobody addresses. Customer needs, nobody meets. These overlooked problems are gold mines of potential value. The person who steps up to solve them doesn't just add value, they create new value where none existed before. I worked with a manufacturing company where machine downtime was accepted as an unavoidable cost of doing business. One employee, not engineer or manager, just a line worker, started tracking patterns in the breakdown. On his own initiative, he developed a preventive maintenance schedule that reduced downtime by 62. That single solution saved the company over $2 million annually. Within 18 months, he was heading a new department focused on operational efficiency with a salary that tripled his previous earnings. Now, finding these unsolved problems requires observation, curiosity, and courage. You have to open your eyes to what others have accepted. You have to ask questions others aren't asking. And you have to be willing to step outside your formal job description to pursue solutions. The fourth component is building a network of meaningful relationships. Notice, I didn't say contacts or connections. I said relationships. Your value in the marketplace isn't determined solely by what you know or what you can do. It's also shaped by who knows what you can do, by who trusts you to solve their problems, by who thinks of you when opportunities arise. Some people misunderstand this and think networking is about collecting business cards or LinkedIn connections. It's not. It's about being genuinely interested in others, providing value before asking for anything, and building trust over time. The most valuable people aren't just known. They're known for something specific. They have reputations that precede them. If you need to solve X problem, talk to Y person. The fifth and final component is consistently over-delivering on expectations. This might sound simple, but it's surprisingly rare. Most people do what's expected and nothing more. They hit the targets but never exceed them. They fulfill the requirements but never surpass them. Valuable people make a habit of exceeding expectations. They don't just meet deadlines, they deliver early. They don't just solve the stated problem. They address related issues the client hadn't even identified. They don't just do their job. They continually redefine what the job could be. This approach creates a powerful compounding effect. Each time you over-deliver, you reset expectations higher. You train people to expect excellence from you. And paradoxically, this doesn't create oppressive pressure. It creates unprecedented opportunity. When you consistently give more than expected, you earn the right to ask for more than others receive. You create leverage in every negotiation. You develop a reputation that becomes a career-long asset. So those are the 5 components of becoming too valuable to ignore. Master your current job. Develop rare and valuable skills. Solve problems nobody's solving. Build a network of meaningful relationships and consistently over-deliver on expectations. But knowing the path isn't the same as walking it. Information without action is just entertainment. So how do you put this into practice? How do you transform these principles into tangible results? It starts with an honest assessment of where you stand today. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself on each of those 5 components? Be ruthlessly honest. This isn't about feeling good. It's about creating an accurate map of your current position. Once you know where you stand, identify the single component with the largest gap between where you are and where you need to be. That's your focus area for the next 90 days. Not forever, just the next 90 days. Why 90 days? Because it's long enough to see meaningful progress, but short enough to maintain focus. It's a sprint, not a marathon. During those 90 days, I want you to establish a daily discipline around improving that one component. Small, consistent actions compound dramatically over time. 10 focused minutes daily will outperform 5 unfocused hours once a week. Let me share something with you that changed my perspective forever. Success isn't an event. It's not a moment when suddenly everything changes. Success is a process, a gradual accumulation of right choices and disciplined habits. Think about building value like building a bank account. Every small deposit seems insignificant on its own. Put in $5 today, what difference does it make? But $5 every day for 20 years with compound interest? Now you're talking about serious wealth. Your value works the same way. Reading 10 pages of a good book today won't transform you. Reaching out to one new contact won't revolutionize your network. Exceeding expectations on one small task won't make you indispensable. But do these things consistently, day after day, year after year. The compound effect is unstoppable. Don't make that mistake. Trust the process. Embrace the compound effect of daily disciplines. Now, I want to address something important. As you increase your value, you'll encounter resistance, both external and internal. Externally, not everyone will celebrate your growth. Some colleagues may feel threatened. Some friends may subtly discourage you. Some systems may be designed to keep you exactly where you are. Internally, you'll battle doubts and fears. The voice that says you're not good enough, the comfort zone that begs you not to risk, the limiting beliefs installed by past experiences. These forces of resistance are normal. In fact, they're a sign you're moving in the right direction. Growth always creates friction. The question isn't whether you'll face resistance. You will. The question is how you'll respond to it. Will you retreat to safety at the first sign of discomfort? Or will you recognize resistance as the necessary price of becoming more valuable? Thousands of people throughout my career, and I've noticed something fascinating. Those who become extraordinarily valuable don't have fewer obstacles than others. They just respond to obstacles differently. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? They ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of saying, this is unfair, they say, this is my opportunity to demonstrate character. Instead of thinking, I can't handle this, they think, this is making me stronger. This mindset shift doesn't happen overnight. Like any valuable skill, it develops through practice. Each time you face resistance and push through it, you strengthen your capacity to overcome future challenges. Let me tell you about a factory worker I met years ago. He'd been on the manufacturing line for 14 years without a promotion. On paper, he looked stagnant. But when I talked with him, I discovered something remarkable. Every day for the past 3 years, he'd been taking online courses in process engineering. Every weekend, he volunteered to help the maintenance team understand recurring problems. Every month, he submitted thoughtful suggestions to improve efficiency. Management had ignored him for years. His coworkers mocked his efforts. His family questioned why he was wasting time studying when it wasn't leading to immediate reward. But he persisted. Day after day, he increased his value. Not because anyone noticed, but because he was playing the long game. Then the company was acquired. The new owners came in to evaluate operations and quickly realized this ordinary line worker understood the production process better than most engineers. Within 6 months, he was managing the department. Within 2 years, he was directing operations for 3 facilities. Was he lucky? Did he just happen to be in the right place at the right time? Absolutely not. He created his luck by becoming too valuable to ignore. When opportunity arrived, as it always does, eventually, he was prepared to seize it. This brings me to another crucial point. Timing Many people overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and vastly underestimate what they can achieve in 5 years. Building extraordinary value rarely follows a linear progression. It often looks like nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. Then everything happens at once. The key is to keep building value during those seemingly follow periods when there's no external validation. The seeds of your future success are planted in the soil of today's disciplined actions. I want you to imagine something with me. Imagine it's exactly 1 year from today. You've spent the past 365 days deliberately increasing your value across all 5 components we discussed. You've mastered your current responsibilities so thoroughly that you make them look easy. You've developed skills at valuable intersections that few others in your field possess. You've solved persistent problems that everyone else accepted. It's just the way things are. You've built genuine relationships with key people in your industry or organization. You've consistently exceeded expectations until excellence has become your personal standard. How different would your professional life be? How much more would you be earning? What new opportunities would be opening for you? How differently would people treat you? The answers to these questions reveal the cost of remaining as you are. They quantify what you lose by not increasing your value. And that brings me to a sobering truth. There's no neutral ground here. In today's rapidly changing economy, you're either increasing your value or watching it depreciate. Standing still is actually moving backward as the world advances around you. Think about skills that were valuable just 10 years ago that have been automated or outsourced today. Think about companies that dominated their industries only to become obsolete because they failed to evolve. The same forces that disrupt industries and organizations also apply to individuals. Your knowledge, skills, and capabilities have a shelf life. They're either appreciating or depreciating assets. This isn't meant to create anxiety. It's meant to inspire urgency, a healthy recognition that today matters, that this week matters, that the choices you make right now are shaping your future market value. Every day, you're creating your future autobiography. You're writing your professional story with each decision, each habit, each action or inaction. Will that story be one of increasing value, expanding opportunity, and growing impact? Or will it be a tale of stagnation, unfulfilled potential, and gradual irrelevance? The choice is yours, and it's a choice you make not once but daily. I've spent decades studying the difference between those who thrive and those who merely survive in their careers. The distinguishing factor isn't intelligence, credentials, or even natural talent. It's their commitment to continually increasing their value regardless of external recognition or immediate reward. The most successful people I've ever met share one characteristic. They're in constant state of growth. They're always learning, always developing, always expanding their capabilities. Not sporadically, not when it's convenient, but as a fundamental way of life. And that's the invitation before you today. Not just to understand these principles intellectually, but to embed them into your daily existence. To make the pursuit of greater value as natural as breathing. So let me ask you directly, what single action will you take today to increase your value? Not tomorrow, not next week, not when things calm down or when the timing is better. Today, will you master a specific aspect of your current job that you've been doing adequately, but not excellently? Will you begin developing a valuable skill at the intersection of different domains? Will you identify and start solving a problem that everyone else is ignoring? Will you strengthen a key relationship by providing unexpected value? Will you find one way to exceed expectations on a current project or responsibility? The answer doesn't matter as much as your commitment to action, because actions, not intentions, create value. Let's talk about another dimension of value that's often overlooked. Your ability to communicate your value effectively. Many people make the mistake of thinking that great work speaks for itself. It doesn't. Value that isn't communicated often goes unrecognized. This isn't about bragging or self-promotion in an obnoxious way. It's about learning to articulate the problems you solve and the results you create in clear, compelling terms. It's about making your value visible without diminishing yourself in the process. Think about it. How many talented people do you know who are chronically undervalued? They work hard, they solve problems, they deliver quality. Yet they're overlooked for opportunities, underpaid for their contributions, and underutilized by their organizations. In many cases, the missing piece isn't value creation, but value, communication. They haven't learned how to frame their contributions in terms that matter to decision makers. Simple framework I want you to remember. Results, not at activities. When you communicate your value, focus on outcomes, not inputs. Don't talk about how hard you worked or how many hours you put in. Talk about problem solved, efficiency gained, revenue increased, costs reduced, customers satisfied. A weak value statement sounds like this. I worked really hard on the Johnson account, putting in lots of extra hours and attending every meeting. A strong value statement sounds like this. I increased retention on the Johnson account by 32, leading to $450,000 in additional annual revenue by identifying and addressing 3 key pain points that previous account managers had missed. See the difference? The first statement asks for recognition based on effort. The second demonstrates value based on results. This distinction becomes even more important as you advance in your career. At higher levels, nobody cares about your effort. They care about your impact. They care about the difference between what existed before you took action and what exists after. I coached an extremely talented marketing director who was frustrated by her company's refusal to promote her to VP. When I asked her to explain why she deserved the promotion, she talked at length about her dedication, her creativity, and her willingness to take on additional responsibilities. What she didn't mention, what she had never effectively communicated to her superiors, was that the campaigns she had designed had doubled customer acquisition rates while reducing cost per acquisition by 40. She created millions in value, but had never framed her contributions in those terms. When she learned to communicate her value in the language of results, her career trajectory changed dramatically. So as you build value, also build your capacity to communicate that value effectively. Learn to quantify your contributions whenever possible. Connect your activities to outcomes that matter to your organization or clients. Develop the ability to tell a compelling story about the problems you solve. Now, there's one final aspect of becoming too valuable to ignore that we need to address: the courage to leverage your value. As your value increases, opportunities will emerge to negotiate better compensation, to take on more significant responsibilities, to access resources and support that were previously unavailable to you. Seizing these opportunities requires courage. It requires being willing to have uncomfortable conversations. It requires taking calculated risks. It requires stepping beyond the familiar into new territory where success isn't guaranteed. Many people do the work to build substantial value, but lack the courage to leverage that value. They wait to be recognized rather than advocating for themselves. They hope that someone else would champion their advancement rather than becoming their own strongest advocate. But here's the reality. In most cases, the world will initially undervalue you. Systems tend to resist recategorizing people. Organizations have inertia that maintains the status quo. If you want the full benefit of your increased value, you must be willing to disrupt that inertia. This doesn't mean making ultimatums or demands. It means having thoughtful, strategic conversations where you align your contributions with appropriate recognition and opportunity. I remember a software developer who had transformed his company's product, creating features that had dramatically increased user engagement and retention. He had clearly become one of the most valuable individuals in the organization. But his compensation hadn't changed to reflect this new reality. For months, he silently resented this disconnect. He considered leaving but didn't want to abandon the product he had helped build. Finally, he gathered his courage and requested a meeting with the CEO. In that meeting, he calmly walked through the specific contributions he had made, the problems he had solved, and the measurable impact on the company's bottom line. He then said something powerful. I believe my compensation should reflect the value I'm creating. I'd like to discuss what that looks like. The CEO was taken aback. Not by the request, but by the fact that he hadn't recognized the disparity himself. Within weeks, the developer's compensation had doubled, and he was given an equity stake in the business. The courage to have that conversation changed his financial trajectory forever. And it all stemmed from first building extraordinary value, then communicating that value effectively, and finally having the courage to leverage that value. To wrap up our time together, I want to leave you with this final thought. Becoming too valuable to ignore isn't just a strategy for career advancement. It's a philosophy for living. It's about continually expanding your capacity to contribute, to solve problems, to make things better than you found them. When you embrace this philosophy, something remarkable happens. Work becomes more than just a way to earn a living. It becomes a canvas for self-expression, a platform for growth, and a vehicle for making a meaningful difference. The marketplace may initially recognize your value through financial rewards, but the deepest rewards come from within, from knowing that you're becoming more today than you were yesterday, that you're developing your potential rather than letting it lie dormant, that you're creating value that wouldn't exist without your presence. That's the ultimate achievement. To look back on your life and know that the world is better because you were here, that you didn't just take up space, but used your time to become someone whose value couldn't be ignored. The path is clear, the principles are timeless, the choice is yours. What will you do with this day, this hour, this moment to become too valuable to ignore?